So the lunar nodes, we've seen what they can do, right? The power of the lunar nodes, the fatedness, the spirituality, the sense of reality showing itself and emerging in these kind of strange ways. But what about the chart examples? What about looking at specific nativities and specific events against the backdrop of this knowledge? So this video comes in a series. There was one made before that you can check out, just about the significations of the lunar nodes. This one is going to be chart examples, like I've said. You know, it's just an overview. Just keep this in mind. I'm not breaking down the chart in full detail. To really analyze a nativity, it really does require a depth of treatment. You know, you really have to look at the sign of the node, the house of the node, the ruler, the condition of the ruler, transits in the past when those placements were activated, to really deeply understand how something is operating in a natal chart. This is very much a high level analysis, but I think there are themes that are operative, and these are still good examples if we just stay at the highest levels to see where these nodes are and how these nodes are functioning in these charts. And then there's some mundane analysis. We've seen the nodal configurations and the nodal activations being very important to mundane astrology. So when this was recorded, it was designed to be one long video, but I broke it up just for ease of editing and for continuity of theme. So I'm going to cut to that previous recording. Enjoy it. Enjoy these chart examples. Talk soon. Take care. So let's just jump right into chart examples. I'm looking at only AA rated charts, and let's start with the first basket, which are vice presidents. It's strange. You type in AA rated charts, conjunctions to the midheaven or the ascendant of either the north or south node, and you get 3 vice presidents. So this is kind of odd. Walter Mondale, he had Rahu on the IC in Gemini. Jimmy Carter's vice president was a presidential candidate. You get Kamala Harris, which is interesting. She has Rahu right on the ascendant, also in Gemini. She is the first person of color vice president, and it's a woman. So you can see there's now like a theme that's emergent that we'll continue to see, which is people that do things, new things, important things, kind of change reality or bring reality more in alignment. That change I was saying earlier, the idea that eclipses bring change. You can see it here with Kamala Harris. She very much represents that shifting cultural change. And then you have Spiro Agnew, who is very strange. He had Rahu also on the ascendant in Sagittarius. He went down with Nixon, forced to resign in '73 for financial misconduct, income tax evasion. First president in American history to resign in disgrace. So again, there's a first here. Agnew certainly had this nodal complication clearly as he was forced to resign. So there's Spiro Agnew. Next basket I want to look at, actually with politicians, I'm going to stay here. Clarence Thomas. AA rated. Clarence has Rahu on the IC in Taurus, and of course another important figure recently. I mean, he has authored some controversial opinions. He's kind of either loved or hated. He's a real lightning rod of a justice, but I'll just throw him in there. I won't say more. I think Spiro Agnew and Kamala Harris are maybe better examples. I will say when Clarence Thomas had those confirmation hearings in the late I think 90s, it was late 80s, early 90s, I can't remember exactly. In 1991, George W. Bush nominated him. That took the whole nation by storm. It really grabbed the attention of everyone. And that's something that I think the nodes can also do. Much like eclipses, everybody's looking at those eclipses. Well, that's what can happen when you get the nodes involved, whether it's on an angle here where they can be most powerful. So you see that with Clarence Thomas. He did seize the attention of the collective. Next group of people I want to go to are artists, filmmakers. Michel Gondry, AA rated time. He has the North Node right on his ascendant in Cancer. Directed a film called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is a really trippy film about reality and love and fate. Again, very karmic themes and around the nodes. Jake Gyllenhaal is the next I want to look at. AA rated time. Rahu on the ascendant in Leo. I think about Gyllenhaal as also an actor. There was Brokeback Mountain, which was kind of a breakthrough for its time because of its depiction of a gay male relationship in cinema. But he has this film Donnie Darko, which is certainly nodal because it's all about loops of reality and what is time. Again, the nature of time itself, the nature of reality itself, which the nodes are strongly indicative of being part of a theme. And then finally, I want to look at George Lucas in terms of filmmakers. He, of course, directs Star Wars. And George Lucas has, he's got Rahu on his IC there, directing Star Wars, which tapped into the mythopoetic nature of the reality. And then it showed us these kind of higher level myths of the hero's journey. And it really captured the attention. I mean, one of the most important cultural artifacts of the late 20th century. And George Lucas is a nodal nativity, the director, and he was the genesis of the ideas too. It was his brainchild. So next basket of people that I want to look at are athletes. 2 boxers. First, Sugar Ray Leonard, AA rated time, Rahu on the ascendant in Sagittarius. He was known as the fastest boxer, a welterweight fighter, but was known for the fastest hands, and he broke through some firsts in terms of fighting. Very popular fighter as well. One of the fighters that took on a kind of cultural status beyond boxing, one of the few that were able to do that. And by the way, each of these charts, I mean, we could break it down and really delineate it. We could look at transits and timing. We don't have time for that. I want to do an overview here and just get some themes, looking quickly at a lot of charts that have Rahu and Ketu prominently featured. Oscar De La Hoya, also a boxer who has the nodes operative. He's got the Rahu in Capricorn right near his midheaven. He was a very powerful or important boxer. He earned a ton of money. And then Mark McGuire. This one, I think, is of all the athletes that I found, is the most nodal because he had the North Node in Cancer on his midheaven. Mark McGuire was extremely important culturally because he broke the home run record. The first player to break Roger Maris's home run record. He hit his 62nd home run in 1998, and it took over the sports world. I mean, I remember I was in high school during this time. It was an obsession because him and Sammy Sosa were breaking records. And it came out later that this was because of steroid use. And so then that became this major scandal where it took down baseball for quite a while, and it changed a lot of rules, and people were really dissatisfied, right? But it's a perfect example of Rahu on the midheaven, the increase that can come with Rahu, but it's a corrupted style increase, right? Steroids made that happen. I love the Mark McGuire example for his Rahu on the midheaven. It's a perfect example. And there's one more athlete, Tom Brady, extremely powerful and important. He's got Rahu on the ascendant in Libra. Just the best quarterback, some people say, of all time. I'm not going to say much more about Brady. All right, the final basket of nativities I want to look at, Claude Lévi-Strauss. These are philosophers, you might say. He has a AA rated nativity with Rahu on the midheaven in Gemini. A very, very important philosopher, extremely important, developed something called structuralism, which is a philosophy that's really cross-discipline, but the idea is that you find these deeper structures in reality when you look at certain fields. So you kind of find a meta-structure, very nodal. You know, when you think about the hidden features of reality, what did Camilla Sutton say? The shadows and the interplay of the unseen shadows. That's what Claude Lévi-Strauss and his work was at least somewhat about. Now I want to go to Bill Moyers, AA rated time. Moyers has Rahu on his ascendant in Aquarius. The thing about Moyers is that he became famous for a series of interviews with PBS where he interviewed Joseph Campbell on the power of myth. And Campbell and this idea of the mythopoetic hero's journey structure of life, some of that work some people will compare to Star Wars, and they will use the idea of narrative metastructure that's found in the myths of the world as something that then Star Wars was able to tap into. So we have both George Lucas and then Bill Moyers, who also was very important in bringing this idea to the forefront culturally, involved here with Rahu and Ketu. And then Carl Sagan, AA rated time. He was popularized astrophysics. He had the TV series Cosmos. There's certainly something about this kind of mystery of reality when we start looking into the knowledge that science brings us around and their theories around what we're in, right? And so there's this kind of meta or greater search that Carl Sagan was involved in, which is certainly nodal. Sagan had North Node in Aquarius, right on his midheaven. Final one I'm going to look at, Steve Wozniak, the partner of Steve Jobs and the founder of Apple Computers, the Apple Corporation. Wozniak has the North Node right on his descendant. It's amazing because Apple changed everything, right? Wozniak's creations and his vision changes our whole reality with the introduction of the personal computer and then the iPhone. I don't think Wozniak developed the iPhone. I could be wrong about that, but he starts this stream of a business that changes the whole reality, right? Changes everything, which is what the nodes can do. They tap into something deeper and more mysterious, something hidden and latent, and then it's like the Black Mirror, right? It's the nodal Black Mirror where we can see, what is this? Eclipses are a black sun. And so there's a relationship, I think, to the technology that is very nodal, and we see that in the nativity of Wozniak. Just two more charts. I'm going to close this with two more charts. So John F. Kennedy's born with Ketu, the true node, and that's a whole thing that I'm not going to talk much about here, but there is the mathematical average of the nodes where you average their movement mathematically. Those are the mean nodes. And then the true node is a precise astronomical determination of the exact point. The mean node and true node usually are in the same degree. They're a few degree minutes away from each other, 10, 15 degree minutes away from each other. There sometimes can be a few weeks, maybe 2 weeks to a month difference of when they ingress into a new sign. But for our purposes, I'm not making that distinction. I use the true node. The charts we were just looking at use the mean node. I checked a bunch of them, and their theme of the video still applies because the nodes are close enough to the ascendant-descendant axis, whether it's a true or mean node. But look at JFK, his nativity. He's got Ketu in Cancer in his 10th house. The moment he was assassinated, you have the nodal inverse of the transit, what we call the nodal reversal, or the inversion of the nodes. So he had an exact transiting Rahu, natal Ketu conjunction the moment that he's assassinated. Talk about nodal, lunar nodal, this event, because culturally it was the most significant thing of that decade. It remained significant for 50 years. Bob Dylan just released a song about this assassination in 2020. It became this great mystery of political mystery. A parapolitical researchers latched onto it. No one really knows what happened even still. There are theories, there are questions, but it becomes this nodal mystery, right? And the nodes were so prominent in his transits. You really see the power of the nodes there with JFK's chart. And you can compare the assassination of JFK to the Sibley chart. You can see that Rahu transit happens right on the sun of the US, the Sibley sun, just about a little over a degree off, 1.5 degrees away from the Sibley sun. So the sect light of America, that sun in Cancer, the transiting North Node activated that at a moment when the king, the sun can sometimes represent the king, was killed. So the king was eclipsed. And it wasn't an eclipse during JFK's assassination, but there was this eclipse point activating the sun of the chart of the nation. Extremely powerful to see. And just here, you can think about it in our own lives. Wherever that node is, remember, it changes things. It can alter, it can take away, it can accelerate fate. It makes fate go faster, and then things are birthed or removed as they should be according to this kind of divine mystery. And then one last chart, you can see 9/11 also has a nodal activation. If we look at the Sibley chart, the North Node was right on the Venus of America, 3 degrees of Cancer. And so it's just pretty accurate. It's directly active. The Jupiter in the 9/11 chart was in 11 degrees Cancer, right on the North Node of the JFK assassination chart. So that Jupiter was activating this sort of collective trauma in that chart. Venus in the Sibley chart is somewhat important. I mean, it's responsible for the 6th house of pain and loss and suffering. It's responsible for the 11th house of the outer world. And certainly 9/11 was a moment of suffering for the collective. And it was shown in the social media digital age. I mean, those images went all over the world because the internet was extant at this time. So you can see some of the delineating Venus, where that North Node was, right on that Venus during that 9/11. So that's some ideas about the lunar nodes, how to maybe look at them or begin approaching them in the nativity, and some example charts to get your study going and to get you started on your journey of having a relationship with these nodes in your own lives and in the charts that you examine for others. Take care.